Greetings, everyone. I'm hoping I can keep this steady enough. My name is James Burkhart, and this is the Political Divide. So I want to talk today very quickly about the science of debate, and specifically calling out hypocrisy. I've seen it show up twice recently. Once used very improperly, once used properly. And people seem not to understand the proper ways to call it out. This isn't me trying to say you can't debate this way. This is me saying you can't effectively debate this way, because this is all about drawing proper equivalencies and pointing out and noting hypocrisy takes some skill, because using enough hyperbole you can kind of connect anything to anything and say, you're being, or you can connect anything to anything. You can find somewhere where there might be some mild hypocrisy and try to destroy someone's argument. So you need a pretty solid basis for your argumentation to be taken seriously. That's the key. This is about me trying to make sure anyone is taken seriously. So I'm going to use two real life examples very recently. The first I've talked about before, which is the Trump, or not the Trump. Sorry, this. It has to do with Trump, but Trump is not the actual subject of this. The response is in the response to the current administration, which is the Trump administration. The Trump administration's immigration policy choices, which have led to mass detention of children in camps. So a lot of people, the big complaint when there was some outrage is, well, you weren't outraged when Obama did it. Liking to highlight the fact that a lot of some of the videos that were being passed around were actually of the Obama administration. And I mean, you kind of got a point there, and it seems right. But as I've noted before, I believe this is a false equivalency. That one of the key problems is this is a false equivalency. It ignores how the Obama administration mistakes and crises played out, with a court battle and the Obama administration listening to a court and modifying the program to largely eliminate child detention. There is still some, because of times in which child services have effectively taken those children for the safety of the children, or whatever such, and I can't say I agree with it. But because there wasn't this mass outrage there is now, people will say you can't do it with Trump, ignoring the idea that the Trump administration made the situation worse and actively was making decisions which made these situations worse. And then to say that these are equivalent, that is wrong, that is not true, and it's not, these are not equivalent situations. The situation was made worse, and then there was further outrage, as the truth of that of how worse they got became true. That's the proximate cause of the outrage. Was not a long-standing process that Trump was just continuing, which is why we dislike, which is something else entirely I'll get into at a later date. But the reason there is an issue at hand is a proximate cause by the Trump administration. And so that's why I think this hypocrisy. As well, I would like to note, you didn't get outraged at, you didn't have any outrage. Well, in general, people displaying that don't know that we weren't outraged, don't know that there wasn't outrage, doesn't know that these people maybe weren't involved in the lawsuits against the Obama administration. But assuming this person wasn't, it's still there's still an assumption of knowledge that I knew this situation occurring and chose to stay silent, and then you assume that I chose to stay silent because Obama was my guy. Um, and so you're making a lot of assumptions to point out the hypocrisy, and these assumptions could be invalid. However, very recently there's a copyright directive moving through the EU, and it's concerning a lot of us who spend time worrying about tech policy. And one of the big concerns is that in the recent attempts to debunk like the the false interpretations, uh, the person who's drafting it has suggested that his goal is that there is no concept of fair use. All uses of copywritten content and all content must be copywritten. There's no concept of the public domain. Must be licensed. And so, just if you're going on the internet, you're paying a license fee for all the pirating you are obviously doing. The EU has these kind of you must be a pirate taxes on a lot of things. In So CD-ROMs and cassettes and VHS tapes used to have a tax associated with them that was supposedly going to the artists. It really wasn't, but that's what it was supposed to do, is compensating the artists for all the piracy you must be committing. And there's very little concept of free use as it is understood here in American law, where free use is the relief valve that allows the copyright to be constitutional. So he's like, no, we want to just get rid of that. Everyone, if you do anything, you're just paying a license fee to collection agencies for being on the internet and being a filthy pirate. And so that was, and that's within the last month he's made these comments. So there is a very proximate event. He knows this is going on. He's actively campaigning for it. And a German newspaper noted that his social media has a lot of copywritten content that is of dubious, its license status is very dubious. And so they tried to contact him and say, hey, do you know what the licenses are? Do you know what the state of your licenses are? And his office is like, no, we can't tell you. We do not discuss contracts with the press. Oh, I mean, can you just show us the evidence that you've licensed these images? Oh no, we don't show invoices for the press. And so so the newspaper grabbed a bunch of screenshots, of these images on social media, and then all these most of these posts disappeared. Thereby, the statement by his office suggests that they were directly contacted by the artists and took down the images. Unfortunately, under the law, that actually isn't enough. He probably would be under, financial burden for that. And it became this kind of question. And so what blog I read was calling out this hypocrisy. He has stated that that's what he wants. He wants full licensing of everything, but he wasn't even complying with it on his own. He's very concerned about the artists being able to make money for their works, except he really wasn't. There wasn't a policy in place to make sure that artists were being compensated for their work in his social media. And in fact, he got notice and takedown of, supposedly, I think it was just the newspaper article, but that's a big question. It's like, there is a clear, it's all these things. There is the knowledge standard. He clearly knows what this stance is. He knows these acts are happening. He knows the offending acts. He knows what the offending acts are. And while at the same time as suggesting that artists should be compensated for everything and there should be no concept of fair use, he is attempting to make you. He clearly was posting things in a fair use mind. He or his staff, and but I think it was his personal, which was the big thing was. And there were people trying to say, you have, this isn't. No, we are not holding him to like a standard that this blog has. This blog wants to expand fair use. The blog is holding him to his standard. Um, and which is to say, and he had all the knowledge. He had all. You don't have to assume. You can know he had everything that was necessary to be able to know that this thing that offended him was taking place by him. And so that right there is a core hypocrisy. And if you're going to, and so when you want to be taken seriously in debate, think about this idea. With hypocrisy, you want to make sure the person you're accusing of hypocrisy knew of and could have responded to the original, the event of hypocrisy, and that there hasn't been such significant time that attitudes could have changed between event A and event B. Going back to the Obama-Trump child scandal, 2009, there wasn't we didn't have yes, social media existed in 2008. It was still in its infancy at the time. You weren't getting things just blowing up like you do now. So, yes, the outrage is louder in part because outrage can be louder in this day and age. A lot of people could have, changed their minds. Circumstances have changed. And so that's the key, is make sure the events are in fact equivalent. Consider, even if you don't consider them a difference, consider events which might differ, or details which might significantly distinguish this event from an opponent's from your opponent in the debate, because that is the big thing, is a change in details, in circumstances, which can significantly affect and impact your ability to get people to believe you, or respect your call that someone is being a hypocrite. As I always try to say in these situations, details do matter. As well, make sure the person can have the knowledge that the event has occurred as it's occurring, and can make their opinion known, have the platform to make their opinion known. Once that is true, if they're equivalent, they have the knowledge and they have the ability to change, to make a different action, and they do not. Someone says they don't like this, but they were seen doing it. That's a nice case. However, beware, like, for instance, a Me Too example. I don't have a specific one, but I can imagine people who have in the past been known to, the guy who did the Man, I don't think it was the Man Game, but Man Show, but you have actors who have done bits that are very, the shows are bad. They are very sexist, and I can see, and I know one of them was called out recently because he he tried to make a stance on Me Too about how objectification and hypersexualization is wrong, and we need to do better. And a lot of people were calling him out because he was the host of the Man Game, and it's like people's opinions can change. There's been at least a decade since the shows that they're calling him out for occurred. He could very easily, as well. We don't know, you know, he could very easily believe that that use of media is no longer okay, and regret having made that show. That's why I try to talk about the proximate cause for the outrage with the Trump incident. It's not that there was something recently that has happened that changed circumstances. That's why I talked about how it was at the same time this guy was posting copywritten images on his social media, while at the same time uh, calling for legislation which would prevent him from doing that and fine him from doing that unless he can get a license. It is that temporal connection which makes hypocrisy valid. Because otherwise you have to make assumptions about a person's state of mind, which is something you never want to try to do in a debate. It's a really hard thing to do, and it's nothing you want to do off the cuff. It's something you need to kind of establish and take a long time to establish. So I hope this is informative. Please share, please comment. I might have to redo this, but I don't have access to a good way to record at the moment, aside like this. So please go ahead and keep commenting, keep talking, because the worst thing we can do is stop talking.